Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a back-to-back Yale Alumni Live. We are very excited to be back again today. And fun fact, our performer today is from Hopper College. So we're kind of continuing on a theme these 2 days here. We're really excited today to have Joey Brink, class of 2011, here to perform on his carillon at the University of Chicago. So we're going to have a quick conversation for the first 15 minutes or so here with Joey. So if you have any questions for him as we're having our conversation, please feel free to put those in the Q&A or the chat in Zoom or right into the live stream in Facebook, and we'll get those over to Joey. And then we're going to present to you about 15 minutes of uninterrupted music, which will be a lovely midday music break for you. So without further ado, I would like to welcome and thank Joey Brink for joining us today. Joey.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
We're very happy to have you and to enjoy like a little bit of a music break today. So why don't we get started and just tell everybody like a little bit about yourself. You and I had a great conversation in preparation for this. So tell everybody where you're from, how you came to Yale, and we'll get into a little bit more too.
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in Madison, Connecticut, pretty close to New Haven. And I remember attending a Yale admissions tour as a high school student, having no idea what a carillon was. And I remember walking past the tower with the tour guide, and the tour guide pointed to the tower and said, there's some bells in the tower and there's some students that play the bells. And for some reason, I thought that was super cool. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Yale. So good job, tour admissions person. And I remember arriving on campus a few months later and going to the extracurricular bazaar where I sought out the Carillon Guild. And I tried not to appear too enthusiastic, but just enthusiastic enough. Anyway, yeah, I joined the Carillon Club there, not knowing that I was going to be a professional carillonneur or that this would be my living, but just as something that I wanted to do for fun at that point. And yeah, majored in engineering at Yale, and then went to grad school in engineering later on. But about 5 years after graduating from Yale, I kind of transitioned from engineering to full-time carillon.
It's so amazing what our extracurricular activities will sometimes lead to in our lives, and we don't realize it while we're doing it, but it's where we end up, and it's really fun. So Joey, tell us, like, do you play other instruments as well? It's kind of, you know, going from not having ever heard of this instrument to playing it professionally. Tell us a little bit about your musical past and history.
Sure. I don't really play any other instruments right now. I can play the piano, and I do, you know, play the piano, but I don't play any other instruments professionally. I grew up playing the piano, and in high school played some mallet percussion, vibraphone, xylophone, which maybe that's why I was so fascinated by the carillon, because it was like a piano keyboard that played bells like I was playing in marching band in high school. So I think there's a connection there. But yeah, it is kind of strange that you know, professional carillon players don't grow up playing the carillon as kids, partly because access to the instruments does not really lend itself to kids, but also because the keyboards are large and you have to kind of be fully grown to play all the notes, as you'll see in a few minutes.
So tell us a little bit about the process. You said you sought out the club at an activities fair, and then from what I understand, there is kind of a tryout process and obviously rehearsals and practices to get to understand the instrument, because like you said, no one exactly has one of these at their home that they can practice. So what was that process like for you as a student? Did you do that your freshman year? Did you become a part of the group? So tell us about the process that led to you being selected to be one of the carillonneurs.
Yeah, I don't actually know if you and I have talked about that yet, Stephanie, but it's really it's a fun thing to talk about. So yeah, there's this audition process at Yale, and we do something similar here at the University of Chicago, where any student that's interested in playing the carillon can sign up for lessons with another student who's already been playing for a year or 2 or 3. And so I took weekly lessons with a senior, and after I think 10 weeks of lessons, then there's an audition to play and to join the group. And so in those 10 weeks, you are primarily practicing on the practice instruments. So we have separate instruments that we play to practice that only make sound in the room that we're sitting in. The practice keyboards either play xylophone keys or they play electronic computer sounds. And so not everybody has to listen to you practice, because every time I play the instrument right here, then everybody in the neighborhood can hear me. So I can't really practice here, although maybe I do, and sometimes I don't think about who's listening, but really you shouldn't practice on a real carillon, you should practice on a practice carillon. So anyway, after about 10 weeks of taking lessons on the practice keyboard and also trying some things out on the real carillon at Yale, then I went for the audition, and I have never been more nervous in my entire life than for that audition. And it's
well, you made it, so you made it. So don't go back to that place. You made it. Now you're doing it.
Right. There's a tradition that the group has, which we don't do here at U Chicago, but the Yale Guild has a tradition of calling or showing up at your dorm actually at midnight on the day of the audition, and telling you very gratefully that you did the audition, but I'm sorry that you did not get in. And they tell you, they let you down, and then they turn around and say, just kidding, you made it into the group. And I remember my teacher coming to my door and saying, thanks for all the work you did, but you didn't make it in. And I was so heartbroken. But a few seconds later, it's like, oh, just kidding, you're in the group, which is kind of cruel, but very memorable.
College kids and our antics. I'm sure everyone watching can think of a similar story. Well, at least maybe it's just me, but I'm with you on that. I understand. So then you decide. So then you're in, and now what happens? Yeah.
So then I was in the guild for the next 3.5 years, where I took lessons with Ellen Dickinson at Yale and played the carillon every week at Yale. Went on tours with the guild to Europe and around North America. And then graduated and got a professional certification in carillon from the North American Guild, but still had this, majored in engineering, had this plan to be an engineer. And so after graduating, I actually took a year to go to Europe and play carillon for a year before I was going to go do engineering for the rest of my life. So I graduated Yale and said, okay, one year of carillon study at Mechelen, Belgium, the carillon school, and then I'll go to grad school in engineering. So I went to grad school at University of Utah, where I was in a graduate engineering program, robotics program, that was very exciting. And it was a very difficult decision after 2.5 years of that I basically decided I've come to the point in my life where I have to pick one of these two things to do, to go all in, and I can't really keep doing both, every year or 2 years, kind of switch between one thing or the other. And so I chose to come to Chicago and be a carillon player. It's been great.
It's so amazing. I love that. So I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, and it doesn't have to be Yale. I think we'll forgive you if there is a more interesting, but what was your favorite place that you've ever played?
Yeah, Yale is, I've played Yale a few times since, or a number of times since I've graduated, and it's always wonderful to go back and play for so many nostalgic reasons. It's a beautiful tower. It's a beautiful carillon. I love my carillon here. The carillon here is the second biggest in the world. Out of about 600 carillons, this one weighs 100 tons. We measure carillons by weight of the bells, because it's more, if we go by weight of the bells, then we're number 2, but if we go by number of bells, we're number 4. So we go by weight of bells here. But probably my favorite place to play is a tower in Florida called Bach Tower Gardens. It's a botanic garden, and it's a beautiful carillon in a magical setting with nature and a garden setting around. And I interned there in between graduate school and coming to Chicago. I interned there for about 4 months, where I actually got to live in the garden. I was the only person living in this botanic garden. It was very kind of surreal, magical, creepy, all those things, before coming to Chicago. But yeah, this carillon there is fantastic because there's no other noises that are competing with the carillon sound. At Yale and here in Chicago, all the sound that I'm making in the tower, I'm competing with car noises and traffic noises and city noises of all kinds and planes and everything. So it's very special to get to play in a setting where there's so much quiet and it's like a natural concert hall. So I think that would be my favorite.
That is so interesting, and I have to admit, I did not expect you to say Florida. So that is that, but I understand why, because that does sound really lovely and beautiful and enjoyable. Because you're right, you know, you are at Yale, you're in the middle of a city, and there are lots of other noises. So we do actually have 2 questions from our audience before we get started with the music. So this might go a little bit hand in hand with my question. I didn't see it before I asked you, but the question is, do you know how carillons are distributed around the world, and what's the maybe furthest place that you've traveled to perform at?
Yeah, sure. I've only played in Europe and North America. I had an invitation to play in Australia that I had to postpone because I had the birth of my daughter, who's now 2.
Well, that's a fair reason. I'm sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
I could have said Australia, but not quite. Most of the carillons are in Europe, and of about 600 carillons in the world, about 400 are in Europe, and those European carillons are mostly concentrated in Belgium and the Netherlands. The Low Countries are where the carillon originated as an instrument about 500 years ago. North America has a lot of carillons, about 187, 190 carillons are in North America. And so most of the instruments are concentrated in Europe and North America, with a few scattered across Asia, Australia, and a few other places.
Awesome, thank you. And there's a second question, and the question is about you and your experience. Was it hard to get your hands and feet to coordinate? This gentleman said that he tried the carillon in his freshman year in 1968, and there were no lessons. He just had to figure it out on his own. And even though he played the piano, he could not get his limbs to agree. Now, I have seen the carillon at Yale, and I could completely understand considering the size and scope. So tell us a little bit about that, Joey.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest challenges in learning the carillon if you have a keyboard background. You know, having a piano background, it's not too hard to, or it's a little bit easier to change your technique from playing with fingers like on a piano to playing with your fists, because it's still looking like a keyboard layout. But starting to use your feet to play pedals and keyboard pedals, something that I hadn't done before. Organists do this also. So some carillon players come from an organ background and play the carillon, and maybe that transition is a little bit easier for them. But actually organists have another challenge that non-organists don't have, in that on the organ you hold down every note until you connect to the next note, because on an organ there's no sustain pedal like on a piano. On a carillon you don't want to hold down any notes, because if you hold down a note, you're holding the clapper against the bell and you're causing the bell to crunch and make an ugly sound. And so that's something that organists have a hard time adjusting to. So there's always some kind of trade-off between what your background is and how you're adjusting. But yeah, I can sympathize with anybody that's learning the carillon and having trouble connecting hands and feet. I teach students here at the university. I have about 20 students, and that's one of the hardest things to do. And it's tempting for students to okay, I'm only going to practice my hands, and then I'm only going to practice my feet, and then I'll only practice my hands, and then only my feet, and then I'll put it together. But really, I emphasize with my students, no, just put it together right from the beginning. Play hands and feet together, because that's the hard part, and you got to work on it.
And among one of the other challenges is the 270 stairs that you have to climb, correct? To get there?
Right. Yeah. You can't really tell right now, but I'm in a tower, and the tower is about 200 feet high, about 271 steps up to the top. So I had to walk up all those stairs to get here. I brought a water bottle with me. There's no bathroom up here.
Well, we appreciate you taking the climb for us today. So I think we're at a point where we can talk a little bit about the music that you're going to play for us today, and then we're going to transition over to watching Joey play and be able to listen to the selection. So tell everybody, I'm very excited about these selections that Joey has made for us today. So Joey, tell us what they are, please.
Sure. I had a hard time actually picking out songs that I wanted to play today. I didn't even know as of this morning what I was going to play. I came to my office downstairs and was looking through my filing cabinet and pulled out like 10 things and realized I had way too much music that I wanted to play. So I narrowed it down to 3 songs. The first one, I wanted to play something that I wrote. I like to compose music for carillon, and this is a piece that I wrote for the Yale Carillon. It's from 2016, written for the 50th anniversary of the Yale Carillon, and that's called Invocation. It's about 6 minutes long. I'll play that one first. And then the second song I'm going to play is a Disney song. Disney music is my favorite genre to play on the carillon, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. And so I'm going to play this song from Pocahontas, which is Colors of the Wind. So that's the second one. And then the third song I'll play for you is a song that I arranged earlier this year. I've been playing it every week in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. It's Lift Every Voice and Sing. So that's the third one.
Amazing. We're so excited. So I think without further ado, we're going to give you a moment to transfer over to the carillon, and I'm going to show everybody pictures of the chapel and some of the bells while Joey gets set up. So Joey, take your time. We're ready whenever you are.
Just so everybody knows, I have microphones built into the tower. There's the tower right there. And so when I change over my microphone, I won't be able to talk to you anymore, but you'll be able to hear the bells. So here we go.
Awesome. I'm so excited to hear Joey play those three selections, especially the one that was written for Yale's 50th anniversary of the Carillon there. So here is a photo of some of the bells that Joey sent to me earlier in the week. And lastly, a closer view. So I am going to go off a video and put myself on mute and allow everybody watching to enjoy his music for the next 15 minutes. Thank you so much for being here with us today, everybody. you so much, Joey. That was awesome. And like I told you, I 1000% sang along to Colors of the Wind in my head. So thank you. And my only wish is that I was walking on campus in New Haven, hearing that and having it like trigger in my mind, which has happened before walking around campus. So thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
So we did get a couple quick questions that I would love to send over to you. And one is interesting, which is, do you have to wear special shoes as organists do?
Yeah, so a shoe that is not too wide so that you don't play too many pedals at once. Something that is not too thick on the bottom so that you can feel the key. I just play in sneakers. Show you. So I don't have any, nobody makes carillon shoes in particular because it's such a niche instrument, but anything that's narrow and not too thick on the bottom.
Oh, thank you. All right, I have a great question that just came through that is actually something that you and I talked about. So I am excited to send this one over to you. So one of our viewers wants to know if you ever get feedback from people who hear you playing, and do they like ask you requests or questions? Do they ever like praise or criticize a particular piece that you've played? And we talked a little bit about this, so tell everybody about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. All of that happens. Yeah, being up here in the tower by yourself, it's can be really nice. You know, have your own kind of private. You feel like you're alone, which I can enjoy while I play music. But you don't really know who's listening. There's always somebody listening outside, whether or not they're actually choosing to listen, they're going to hear you. And so it can be a little strange not to know how many people are outside listening, who's outside listening. So it's wonderful to get comments from somebody, appreciative comments from somebody that's been listening outside. Doesn't happen every day or necessarily every week, but occasionally somebody will send a message. They don't even know where to send the message. They look something up online and find a way to get it to me or to somebody and saying, I really loved that song, what was that? Or I heard this song in particular, thanks for playing that. As far as requests, yeah, we have, here at University of Chicago, we have a request form online that people can go and fill it out. It's at rockefeller.uchicago.edu, and you can navigate to it. And so I take requests there, and lately I've been putting them online because everybody's at home. And so that's a fun way to play different kinds of music that different people enjoy. And then occasionally, less frequently than appreciative comments, I will get criticisms saying, you know, don't play so long, or don't play so loud, or you know, can you play something different?
I can't imagine that you could turn the volume down on the bells. No. So that's kind of a tough call.
I can play loud and soft by, you know, hitting the key harder or softer. But you know, it's important to listen to those critical comments too, and I always respond and, you know, try to develop a kind relationship with the individual. So yeah, all kinds of comments.
I love that. So Joey, I actually have a question for you. Yeah. Do you get to choose whatever it is that you're playing, or are there certain pieces? You are in a chapel. Do you have to play anything in particular at any part of the day, or do you kind of just get to make it up as you go, however you want to do it?
Yeah, I get to play whatever I want. Not any time of the day. We have designated playing times at noon and 5 o'clock each day, but for an hour at those times, I can play any music I want to play. And the students can play any music that they want to play, which is wonderful. I like to play a large variety of music: contemporary music, jazz, Disney music, original compositions, transcriptions of classical music. And so I'm really glad to be able to play, yeah, all kinds of music. And that was true at Yale too. You know, the Yale students that play, they're playing whatever they want to play on a given day.
That's a wonderful opportunity to be creative, but also like a little bit scary perhaps at some points, but you have to have trust in your students, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you know, it's good for them. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So there's a couple more questions before I let you go, if you still have time. Yeah. Is there a particular, we have a question from the audience. Is there a particular piece that you have wanted to play or are working on, maybe doing a transcription of something that is in the works perhaps, or maybe just your favorite piece in general?
I get that question sometimes, and it's really hard to answer. I don't really have a favorite piece. I definitely have a lot of favorite pieces in different styles. Colors of the Wind that I just played is probably my favorite Disney song, which is why I chose it today. I've been arranging a lot of songs from Frozen because I have a 2-year-old daughter, and she really likes that. Some of the things that are in the works. I'm always composing something, and I never really know where that's going, but there's always something in the works there. I really got into Astor Piazzolla lately, and so I've been trying to make some arrangements there. But yeah, mostly I just like to play a large variety of music. And
well, please do let me know when your Frozen 2 soundtrack comes out, because we have that on heavy rotation here as well. So I'm sure we can enjoy that. And speaking of which, someone did want to know if you do have any recordings or anything like that that people would be able to hear at another time.
Yeah, for sure. I have a YouTube channel. You can search Joey Brink on YouTube, and that'll take you to some of my songs there, including some of the ones I played today, I think. I usually post something there once a week or so. So yeah.
Excellent. Oh, great. We'll make sure. So this has been recorded for everyone watching. This has been recorded, and we do repost all of the Yale Alumni live videos on the Yale Alumni Vimeo channel. So we'll make sure that we put a link to Joey's YouTube channel so you can enjoy more of his music. So we have like maybe 2 more minutes. I have another couple quick questions, and then we'll let you go, Joey, about your day. Go back down those 270 steps. This has been absolutely wonderful talking to you. One of the questions, and this is a good question as well, how heavy are the keys? Because it looks like you have to rigorously pound on them.
Yeah, great question. I wish I could jump over and show you. I guess I could, but I'll just explain it because I can't show you and talk at the same time given the audio setup here. But the keys vary in weight across the keyboard. So the very heaviest bell I play with my foot. And that bell, the bell itself weighs 18.5 tons, so 37,000 pounds. And the clapper, the bell is stationary, the clapper that moves to strike that bell weighs about 800 pounds. And it's a mechanical connection from the keyboard to that clapper. So there's no electronic assistance or pneumatics or anything like that. But I'm not physically putting 800 pounds of force into that key. I'm putting maybe 20 pounds of force into that key to play the biggest bell, which is a lot. It's much easier to play that bell with my foot than with my hand because there's more power in my leg. The top of the keyboard, the very lightest bell, that bell only weighs 10 pounds, and the clapper weighs 1 pound. And so I'm just moving a 1 pound clapper an inch to strike, or less than an inch to strike that bell. And so that key feels like nothing. You could play it with your pinky finger. And so it's a strange thing to play the bells simultaneously, to play a really light bell while you're playing a really heavy bell. And one of the things you have to learn when you are learning to play the carillon is how to play the bells in time with each other, because there's a key fall on the keyboard of about 2 inches. And if you start playing the keys at the same time and you have a really light key, that key is going to play first before the really heavy key. And so it's actually challenging to play notes together. And so that's why we do something called preparing, where we actually prepare the notes like halfway down before we strike them to play them in time. Anyway, that's probably a longer answer.
Wow, but that's a wonderful, what I thought was a simple question is actually a really excellent question, yeah, providing a lot of insight into how this all works. And perhaps maybe your engineering degree does work.
Yeah.
It filters in a little bit. Yeah. So not all was lost in your engineering degree, Joey.
No, actually, I did a couple of engineering projects related to carillon at Yale and after Yale on keyboard design, and actually went around measuring the forces of different keys at different carillons, because every carillon is unique. Some keys are heavier than others on different keyboards, and the distribution, the force profile across the keyboard is always different between carillons. Anyway.
Oh, I mean, but this is amazing. What a great, this one question turned into such a great answer. So yeah, thank you. That's really great. And it was anonymous, so I cannot credit the person who gave us that question, but thank you. Thank you very much. We're running out of time, so I have 2 more really quick questions for you. One is, what would you say makes a song easier or harder?
Sure. Songs that are, well, I guess there's 2 ways to think about easier or harder. Harder could mean, a lot of notes, it's fast, might make it hard to play, but also make it fun to play, and maybe that sounds good. Songs that are hard to play, that hard to adapt, that don't translate as well to carillon, anything that has a really strong rhythmic component that's not that's not harmonic. So thinking like reggae or rap music doesn't translate all that well. And that I think is hard, because getting somebody on the street walking by to recognize me playing a rap song, that's a hard thing to do. I've tried it a couple of times and I don't know how successful it's been, but that's quite hard. One of the reasons I like Disney songs a lot is because they have a lot of harmonic changes and interesting harmonies, which makes them challenging because there's a lot of notes to play, but it makes them interesting to listen to because it's so, it revolves so much around the harmony.
Amazing. And I'm going to do this very last question. And for anybody watching, if I missed your questions, I apologize. We can try and get those over to Joey and add them into the transcript of this event. And I do think there were a few questions that were asked that we answered earlier in the program, so you can go back and find out a little bit more about student preparations on the Carillon, considering they don't have one at home. So that's in the beginning. So you can go back and re-listen to that if you're interested. But the last comment that we received was from Jay Lane TD88. He said, have you ever tried the Bach unaccompanied violin music? He found some of that works very well.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to play in the Baroque genre are unaccompanied violin or cello music. So a lot of Bach unaccompanied cello prelude, or the sonata for violin. I think it's BWV 1001 is a favorite of mine. And sometimes we add some bass notes to that also. We don't just play a single line. Often there are organ transcriptions of unaccompanied violin or unaccompanied cello or other instruments. And then we can adapt those organ transcriptions and reduce the notes somewhat to get a carillon arrangement from that. But yeah, that kind of music works really well. Guitar music also really works really well on the carillon, just by the way it's written. Yeah.
Well, Joey, this has been an absolute pleasure being here with you today, and I think everyone else has enjoyed it as well. So perhaps we'll have to get back together again in the future and hear some of your Frozen arrangements. I know that my friend Kevin Winston, who helps us with all of these, has already got something cooked up in the comments. I've already seen him. He's got the wheels turning about some Disney collaborations with other Yale alums. So don't go too far, because we will be back. Thank you all so much for watching today. It's been great to be here with you back to back 2 days in a row. And fun fact, next week we are going to be on Yale Alumni Live, both on Instagram and on Facebook, with the founders of Escape New Haven, one of which is Joey's best friend. So come back and see us next week, learn about Escape New Haven and the creativity involved in putting escape rooms together. Joey, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. Everybody have a great rest of your week, and thank you so much for watching Yale Alumni Live. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Oh, that was so fun. It was really great. Did you enjoy that?
That was great. Yeah, I had fun. Thank you.
Awesome. You had great attendees too. Like we had over 20 people in Zoom, which is wonderful for middle of the day.
Oh yeah, I see one of my brother-in-laws on here.
Awesome. Well, we stay
Max
usually.
on here too. Hey, Max.
Oh, Max. We stay live in here for the next couple of minutes. If anybody is watching and wants to come on and say hello, we always do offer that at the very end of our sessions. Max, I can't wait to see you next week. Tell me all your secrets, because I don't understand how you guys do this. It's so amazing. I told Ethan that last week. I can't wrap my head around it. Oh, yay. He's probably like, what are you doing? Oh man, that was so fun. Colors of the Wind was great.
Thanks.
I loved that.
Yeah.
Joey, can you do Frozen?
Campus here hears that one a little more often than maybe I should play it.
Joey, I went to your YouTube channel and found that you've done 2 Frozen songs. Could you also do Let It Go, which is by a Yaley, Bobby Lopez? He kind of won an Oscar for it, so everyone knows it. No one will complain about that one. Well, maybe they won't. But
yeah, I do play that one actually. I haven't put it up online, but I was playing that one for a number of years. Whenever I had a school group in the tower of, I don't know, first graders or second graders, then I would usually play Let It Go. So
that is so cute. I love that. You know what would be really cool, Kevin, is if we got a whole bunch of Yale musicians that have done Yale Alumni Live for us, all doing Let It Go, and put it all together like a big mashup.
oh wow, that'd be very cool. Like playing at the same time.
I don't know how we could do it. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, let's do it, because it's Bobby Lopez won an Oscar for it, so we could have violinists perform it. You can perform on the piano. It'd basically be 2 hours of, or 45 minutes. 45 minutes of
5 minutes and everybody.
How many parents would be like so pumped and they could just put their kid right
exactly,
in front
just
of
watch this.
Important question, Joey. The question is, how much of your success can you contribute to your favorite sister?
Who's watching this right now?
Jake.
Jake, we're going to bring you on screen to ask you that yourself, since it sounds like you know him.
Oh,
Jake and Max, don't be shy. Share your camera, as long as you're not in the bathroom.
Hey,
Max, where are you zooming in from, Max?
I'm in sunny New Haven, Connecticut right now.
All right, and Jake, where's Jake zooming in from?
Your favorite with your favorite sister.
You guys are in Switzerland now?
Yeah, they're in Switzerland.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's so cool that you can follow us from Switzerland. Very cool. Any Carillons in Switzerland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They mostly signal fires, I think, here though.
Kind of like in National Lampoon's like European Vacation, like that kind of thing, like something emergency, like you guys, you know that movie, right? Kevin, you got to know that movie.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's painful. Max, are you excited for your turn next week?
Yeah, I am.
I'm so excited. I have like 1,000 questions. Nobody's getting a question in edgewise because I have so many.
I'm very curious about virtual escape rooms. They were escape rooms were super popular in Los Angeles like 2 or 3 years ago, and there's like 30 of them now. And former nightclubs and restaurants are now escape rooms. So super curious about how you've gone virtual in this.
Yeah, it's gonna
totally.
be so awesome. Like I was telling Ethan that right before all of this happened, we went to Escape from New Haven, the YA did, and I did it's before Moonrise, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the one I'm going to be doing next week.
Yeah, it is, and so I'm happy because like I'll know what's going on because I was literally in the room sitting there like, how do you guys know? Like, how do you guys know what to do right now? Like, I'm so confused. So I'm pumped. I can't wait. I can't wait to have our Instagram conversation. I can't wait to do our virtual event. Like, it's going to be super cool. So thank you. And how funny is it that you guys are best friends? And I was like, I think I was telling Ethan, I was like, oh yeah, the week before you guys, we've got this guy. He does the Carillon out in University Chicago. And he was an engineering major. And he was like, yeah, Joey, that's his best friend. And I was like,
all the time.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
So it's really awesome.
Funny.
I'm excited. So I don't know if anybody else wants to come on and say hello. You're welcome to do that.
Feel free to say hi, ask a question, ask another question.
Thank you very much, Joey. I loved it. And I was the one who asked that question about how hard it is to hit the keys and the coordination that you have. I mean, I can see why you were an engineer and a carillon player, because you just have to organize everything and, you know, have your hands, eyes, feet, everything coordinated. How do you do it?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question again. You know, a lot of my students are STEM, science, math, physics majors also, and you know, a lot of musicians are also mathematical, generally musicians. So it's not a unusual combination of interests, I think. But after playing for so many years, I think the coordination between heavy bells and light bells and hands and feet just becomes second nature. It's not something that I have to do consciously. It's just built into how I play the instrument at this point. So that's thanks to, you know, playing for a number of years and practicing a lot and playing a lot of different carillons. But it can be hard for me to coach my students and to teach my students how to get that get that balance and that coordination down. It's not something that I have to try to do anymore. And so it's sometimes hard for me to remember what it was like to not be able to just do it. Yeah.
And when you started, did you start with the light ones or the heavy ones? I mean, even though you don't remember exactly.
You do them all. Yeah, when you start playing, you gotta play every bell, you know, heavy bells and small bells, and get the feeling for the difference between them. And I guess another challenge that I didn't mention earlier is that the practice carillons that you play on aren't heavy like the instrument up here. And so you go and you do all your practicing on this instrument that's very light, But then when you transition and play on the real bells, you're suddenly playing something really heavy. And so you can't even really practice it on the practice carillon. You have to just get used to playing the real bells a lot.
So it's amazing. I was just doing some weights, and 8 pounds is about my max. So how heavy is the heaviest of the keys that you bang on?
Play with my hands, probably I would say maybe 10 pounds max, maybe less, maybe 8, maybe 5. My feet are doing the bottom octave and a half or 2 octaves, and those are the bells that get really heavy, up to 20 pounds. So I often say that it looks more physical than it is. I think the most physical part of the instrument is actually climbing the stairs. Once you're up here, you've already done most of the work. And so it's not quite as like, I'm not breaking a sweat, or I'm not going to be sore tomorrow.
I was gonna ask, like, it looks like really great cardio, as opposed to a violin, which is just like this, like you're going like this with your hands at Theo. I was like, that's probably at least 100 calories you burn on that song.
Maybe.
Well, I have 57 steps to get to my house, so that's, you hit the top.
I have to sign on to another Zoom meeting, and when I do this, we'll kick everybody off. So I have to say goodbye, but thank you so much, Joey. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Judith, and everybody for watching today. Max, can't wait to see you next week. I'm pretty pumped about that. Kevin, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you all so much.
Thanks,
it's been
everybody.
a pleasure.
Thank
Joey,
you.
have a great
Thank you
week.
so
Take care,
much.
everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.